अस्सलामुअलैकुम जी। आज की जो सेमिनार है दैट्स ऑन डिबगिंग। तो जो सबसे पहले जो चीजें हम लोगों ने देखनी है डिबगिंग में, सो वो हमारे पास फोर मेन पॉइंट्स है। तो फर्स्ट पॉइंट इज गोइंग टू बी व्हाट डिबगिंग डेफिनेशन, हिस्ट्री एंड मोटिवेशन। Second point, the four major techniques of debugging. Number three, debugging tips and tricks. Number fourth, things to avoid while debugging. अब इसको वन बाय वन हम लोग देखते हैं डिबगिंग को। तो हम लोग इसको पढ़ते कैसे हैं, डीबगिंग, राइट। तो इसको हम लोग फाइंड आउट कर रहे हो bugs, right? So how we to find out the bugs? Now, what's the definition of the bugs? How we say different, I mean, different scientists about the debugging. तो हमारे पास जो वन ऑफ द साइंटिस्ट नेम मॉरिस विल्कस 1949 इन्वेंटर्स ऑफ माइक्रो प्रोग्रामिंग, उसने उन्होंने क्या कहा? उन्होंने कहा कि जनाब, as soon as we started programming, we found to our surprise that it wasn't an easy to get programs right as we had thought. We had to discover debugging. I can remember that exact instant when I re- realized that a large part of my life from then on was going to be spent in finding mistakes in my own programs. So this is a habit for a programmer. Now to find out the errors, right? So how we do? We have to say what is debugging? It's debug, d underscore bug. So this is a bug. We kill bugs, right? And after what we do, the process of finding the bugs. After that, what we are doing, debug someone who kills bugs. So after that, we debug a program. So debug a program, bug an error in a program, right? Debug, remove error. उसके बाद क्या है? Debugging, the process of finding and removing errors. फिर उसके बाद debug, a total of killing bugs. उसके बाद कहता क्या है? हमारे पास इसके अंदर फर्दर हम लोग सो देखें तो वो कहता क्या है जनाब, why it isn't called a bug. The term first used back in 1950s by Grace Hooper, computer programmer pioneer lady, who was one of the first programmer of Harvard Mark I computer. Operator traced an error in a layer. Electromechanical Mark II computer caused by a butterfly-like bug called moth. Since then, the first bug is associated with an error. Operators logged that bug carefully in the log book. उसके बाद हम लोग देखते हैं, this is the first actual case of bug being found. So what we did, this is the date 99. This is the instruction numbers, right? According to that, use the operations. So there is a bug which is sitting on this paper. So this is a bug. So we find out a bug over here. So we are trying to find out the bugs. So this is one of the bug up over here. So here's is the case of a bug. Debugging in earlier everyday life. Debugging is troubleshooting. Humans do it all the time. Why didn't the bike starts? For example, why did the wall clock stop running? Why is the mobile internet not working? Finding bug is the first step to removing it. No bug tracing, no fixing. तो हम लोग कहते हैं क्या statistical bugs में to use of invalid language grammar. ठीक है जी। मसलन उसके बाद कहते हैं compiler objects or syntaxical errors and does not allow the programs to run. Missing a missing a matching parenthesis, बिल्कुल ठीक है, ये आपके फंक्शन आपके एरर्स बग्स बन सकते हैं. कॉलिंग अ फंक्शन विदाउट रिक्वायर्ड हेडर फाइल्स, ये भी आपके पास एक बग बन सकता है. मिसिंग सेमीकोलन एट द एंड ऑफ द स्टेटमेंट, ये अक्सर काद होता है. आप पाइथन के अंदर कभी कोई आप फॉर लूप लगा रहे हो तो एट द एंड आप कॉलर लगाना छोड़ दें तो वहां पर आपके पास एरर आता है. तो लॉजिकल बग्स क्या है इसमें? आप देखते हो कि इनकरेक्ट लॉजिक or incorrect use of programming features to implement some logic. Program runs but results are not correct. Very common logic errors are using equal sign instead of equal, method infinite loops, misunderstanding operator precedence, starting or ending at the wrong index of an array. If an index is invalid, you would get an exceptions. Runtime bugs, an invalid scenario during runtime. Array index out of bounds, running out of memory, null reference. So ये आपके टाइप्स ऑफ बग्स हैं. तो आपके कंप्यूटर बग्स हैं. तो इसके अंदर आपके फोर मेजर जो आप डिबगिंग टेक्निक्स देखेंगे. तो हमारे पास बेसिकली हम लोग कहते हैं क्या, वेयर डज द प्रोग्रामिंग स्टैंड्स इन दी सॉफ्टवेयर डेवलपमेंट प्रोसेस। तो बेसिकली ये आपके पास प्रॉब्लम स्टेटमेंट है और ये हमारी टेस्टिंग प्रोसीजर्स है। तो दरमियान में हमारे पास प्रॉब्लम एनालिसिस, डिजाइन ऑफ एल्गोरिदम और इम्प्लीमेंटेशन ऑफ सोल्यूशन आप देख रहे होते हो। तो मेरे पास जब हम लोग देख रहे होते हैं ना सबसे इम्प्लीमेंटेशन ऑफ सोल्यूशन में, तो हमारे पास जब लॉजिकल और रन टाइम एरर आते हैं तो इसको यूज करते हैं डीबग का फंक्शन, और फिर उसके बाद बग फिक्सिंग। तो बग फिक्सिंग के बाद जो सबसे पहले आप देखते हो कि आप कोड अपडेट करते हैं कोड को, और अपडेट साथ ही अपडेट कोड उसको किया जाता है उसके एल्गोरिदम को। तो ये मेरे पास एक प्रॉपर उसका एक सॉफ्टवेयर डेवलपमेंट का मेथड्स हैं। तो आप मेथोडोलॉजी आप इसको कह सकते हैं बेहतर तरीके से। उसके बाद फर्दर हम लोग कहते हैं हाउ टू डिबग। टास्क लिया, उसके बाद जो रोल है, डिजाइन का रोल आर्किटेक्ट, कोडिंग का इंजीनियर, टेस्टिंग वेंडर, डिबगिंग डिटेक्टिव। नो कुक बुक for debugging comes with experience. However, need to know a few basic techniques. मसलन कहता है कि how to debug. The best way to handle bugs in computing is not to make a mistake in the first place. Humans make mistakes usually unknowingly. Similar in the case with computer programming. Remove the errors methodically. फिर उसके बाद कहते हैं कि आप उसके अंदर using debugging techniques में क्या है, tracing by hand, brute force logging, informed logging using automated debugger. फोर मेजर टेक्निक्स आप इसको देखेंगे। तो ट्रेसिंग बाय हैंड, तो ट्रेसिंग बाय हैंड का मतलब है गुड स्ट्रेट पॉइंट, good starting point with small programs or simple methods. Problem: sometimes you do what you think the computer will do, but that is not what it actually does. Example: you may write that 9 by 5 is 1.8, but it is really 1 program. एग्जाम्पल सम डिवाइड बाय एवरेज ऑफ अरे एलिमेंट्स। तो आप इसको फर्दर देखें ब्रूट फोर्स लॉगिंग में, कंप्यूटर ट्रेसेस इट बाय हैंड, display the state by effect of program after almost each instruction. For example, sum divided by average of array elements. Impractical for large problems, but sportive for beginners programmers, or helpful if you have tried all other alternatives and completely blank now. Using print statements. अब इसके अंदर क्या प्रॉब्लम्स आ सकते हैं? Insert print statement at key locations to show values of significant variables, to show how far your got before there was a problem. Example क्या दिया हुआ है? Sorted merge of arrays, the sum divided by average programs. In the print statement, it's a good idea to to specify the location of the trace, what method, the variable name as well as its value. In a cursive function, it is a good idea to display the parameters values at start and return values as well as the end. Example Fibonacci numbers. उसके बाद आप देखते हैं automated debugger में debugger a tool that helps you find bugs in the program. Almost every popular programming IDE provides an integrated debugger, right? Standard C compiler in GCC and corresponding debugger name is GDB, GNU debugger. Whatever helps and GCC based IDEs debugger provides, it is using GDB behind the scene. ठीक है जी। अब इसके अंदर मेरे पास क्या है? नंबर फोर्थ में ऑटोमेटेड डिबगर्स पे कंटिन्यूस फीचर्स ऑफ एन ऑटोमेटेड debugger, step by step program execution, add breakpoints. Third, watch program variables values at runtime. You can see what is stored in variables. Add a breakpoint somewhere near the functionality of a code where the error has occurred. Usually inspecting one upper level of code may help. For example, linear search. उसके बाद blend of different techniques. Sometimes a blend of different techniques may help. Maybe a combination of print statements at very key locations first. If bug not figured out, then go for automated debugging. उसके बाद आप जब कहते हैं कि जनाब इसके अंदर मेरे पास आप लोग यूज कर रहे होते हो कि इसके अंदर डिफेंसिव programming may avoid errors in the first place. Write bus programs, including checking for exceptional conditions. Try to think of situations that might reasonably happen and check for them. Examples: files that doesn't exist, bad inputs data. Generate appropriate error messages and either allow the user to re-enter the data of exit from the program. Design different test cases for different scenarios. उसके बाद हम लोग देखते हैं debugging tips and tricks. इसमें debugging tips and tricks में there are different certain debugging tips or rules of thumbs which results in effective debugging. A debugging trick is like a magic trick, may seem trivial or may have a non-logical explanation, but it works. For example, number one, focus on recent changes. If you find a new bug, ask what code did I change recently. This favors writing and testing code incrementally. Number two, explain it to someone else. Often explaining the bug to someone unfamiliar with the program forces you to look at the program in a different way, or that person may come up with a different idea. For example, number three, let the debugger work for you. Sometimes error detecting tools like a debugger make certain bugs easy to find. We just have to use them. For example, get some distance. It's a magic. Give it a try. Sometimes you may be too close to the code to see the problem. फिर उसके बाद go to the run, take a shower, whatever release you, it it lets your mind continue to spin in the background. फिर उसके बाद कहता क्या जी आपके पास always plan ahead and allow sufficient time for testing and debugging once you have fixed a bug. फिर उसके बाद कहते हैं कि आप think about it if the bug you fix might manifest itself elsewhere in your code. Think about how to avoid how to avoid in the future. फिर उसके बाद आप कहते हैं कि separate the innocent code and club set clubbed code and apply your investigation on the clubbed code. The first step for this is to eliminate obvious causes. For some, you are sure that the bug is not due to these causes. Limit the number of untested assumptions. Eliminate as many possibilities as you can. फिर उसके बाद आप कहते हैं कि community debugging में there are a lot of online forums like Stacks Overflow where people post their problems and other people offer help. For example, आप कहते क्या है often posting the error statements right in Google search may take you directly to the solution even if you don't find a solution right away. Asking the community is always a good tactic, may save a lot of time. Things to avoid while debugging. Some key points to avoid. Be systematic and persistent. Don't panic. Look at code critically. Don't just sweep your eyes over the series of simple statements, assuming that they are too simple to be wrong. Don't be optimistic about your code. Be critical of your beliefs about your code. It's almost impossible to see a bug in a function when your instinct is that the function is incorrect. Do not change your code haphazardly, trying to track down a bug. This is a sort of like a scientist who changes more than one variable in an experiment at a time. It makes the observed behavior much more difficult to interpret, and you tend to introduce new bugs. If you find some wrong code that does not seem to be released to the bug you are tracking, don't ignore it. Fix the wrong code anyway. फिर उसके बाद फोर मेजर टेक्निक्स ऑफ डिबगिंग ट्रैकिंग tracing by hand, brute force logging, form logging, automated logging, keep applying the method strips. उसके बाद thank you very much. ये आपके पास debugging का portion. I hope this was quite informative for you. Thank you very much.